You are listening to the TV Obsessive podcast, brought to you by TVObscast.com.
Okay, welcome back to the TV Obsessive podcast. We're here today for episode 154. As always, I'm Caemeron and Ryan, executive editor for TVObscast.com, and I'm joined by Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for the site. How you doing today, Ryan?
To be honest with you, I'm kind of running on fumes. There were four things I had to watch last night. One of them was, in the 30-ish minute range. The rest of them were quite long, and so I'm stayed up late, wrote something last night, so I'm feeling it now. We're getting towards the late afternoon.
Yeah, I noticed. I mean, you're referring to the Daredevil piece, and so this is kind of a rare instance for me, right? Because I'm something of a night owl, right? But actually, I had gone to bed by the time you sent me that message telling me
Yeah.
that you were shredding it. And we've got an hour time difference too. So it was either like, well, I guess that means it was an hour earlier for you though.
Yeah,
So,
that earlier. Yeah.
right. Yeah, an hour earlier for you. Anyway, it's May 6th. Speaking of Daredevil, as I mentioned, Ryan's been writing on the show for TVObsessive.com. We do have a piece up at this point on the finale. Other things you want to say about the season here, how it wrapped up, or what you're looking forward to, whatever.
Yes. Overall, I think strong season finale in terms of what we can look forward to, not only in terms of there are some webs, as it were, into the Spider-Man movie this summer, and certainly some thoughts of what we can do when we get a third and final season of Daredevil, probably the spring of 2027. But yes, strong overall. I think hit the right notes for those that like the Daredevil show. A couple of really strong action pieces, a couple of surprises in there. Cameo or two for those that like that kind of thing, and helps us sort of tease in at the next stuff. I think that overall, I think a good end to a mixed season, I thought.
Well, yeah, I should admit to you, I have fallen behind. I know I told you I was going to watch at least this season, and I'll probably able to catch up, but I did fall behind. Speaking of John Bernthal, sort of,
Oh,
it's May 6th today, May 5th, yesterday, they surprise dropped an episode of The Bear on us with featuring Richie and Mikey, prequel episode kind of thing. And so we're going to cover Widow's Bay today, which was the original plan. We're on to episode 3 of that. And then we're also going to hit on the Bear episode that dropped. Gary, so go listen to the full podcast. I think we'll go Widow's Bay, and then we'll do the Bear at the end. And on the YouTube channel, I'll split those up, and in terms of videos we'll post there. But hopefully people are on board with this. I mean, I don't know. Speaking of the Bear dropping a surprise episode, I don't know how you feel about that, Ryan. What was your reaction when you saw that news yesterday?
I actually I was near he was near my wife, and I said, "Hey, did you know about this?" 'Cause I like to think that you and I are up on what's going to be happening, and we follow the news clearly, and we talk about it every week. And I just could not remember the last time I was this surprised that was happening. You'd have talked about like, oh, there's a secret episode of Yellow Jackets somewhere, and there's all these things. We
Yeah,
had no idea there was a secret episode of The Bear that was just going to drop in early May at some point.
yeah. My first reaction was almost like anger, but maybe that probably involves the fact of doing things like running the TVObsessive.com website and doing the podcast and all of that. We've established the Bear is something of a beat on the podcast. I mean, it's where we started, even in terms of doing this podcast. Um, I don't know. I'm curious more generally, just like the common public of Bear fans were they more excited and happy? Because my reaction, my first reaction was almost like, oh, this is more I got to do now or something, as opposed to being excited that there was a new episode of a show I like.
I did see a fair amount of reaction of you obviously you watch The Bear, you're going to watch the episode. A fair amount of reaction of people saying an hour. I got to go spend spend an hour for this show. This is not a short just little sequitur between. This is a full-time commitment.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, but it was pretty good. We'll dig in on that
Yeah.
later. Other news this week, in my mind, the biggest news. Well, I want to start with, I guess, They announced the Pulitzer Prizes, and Pablo Torre finds out. Now, winner of the Pulitzer Prize. I mentioned this show various times on the podcast, going back to when it started. Like, I guess it was almost 3 years ago now. I'd have to double check the date. I am a fan of the show. I am a fan of Pablo Torre and the work he's done there. The only negative I can see is I imagine he is never going to shut up about this. But thoughts, Ryan?
No, I mean, what's great about this, not only Pablo Torre and his style of journalism, his style of work, winning this award, it is. You can go look at that. I think it's 4 links they have here of the shows, the podcast, the work that they did to put in this this investigation to what won them the Pulitzer. I mean, this is. Th I think this is sort of looking to the future of how this is going to
Yeah.
work, right? As 15 years from now, and newspapers aren't around anymore, this is going to be how we need to receive and how we will receive investigative journalism like this. I just think it's sort of model breaking in a lot of ways.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, it's really cool in my mind because I do think that they've been doing really good journalism on that show.
Hmm.
And this is specifically for people who aren't aware, with the investigation of the Clippers and all of that kind of stuff. It's those episodes in particular, and also make sure to note it's not just Pablo Torre who won; it's the staff of the show.
Right. Right.
But it is, it's interesting how it ties in there too, because what was it, Steve Ballmer is his right name, I think. Like,
Yes.
with regard to this very investigation, they've been saying like, oh, this is just gossip from a sports podcaster or whatever. And so for to win the Pulitzer, I think you're right, or we'll see. But it is an interesting thing insofar as I saw Pablo talking about this. I think it was on the Dan Levitard show. It was a
Hmm.
YouTube clip. I think it was on the Dan Levitard show, but Dan Levitard wasn't there. So but I think it was on
Okay.
his show. Um, but anyway, he was talking about it and related to this question of making it entertaining and things like that, right? And mention other journalists in other fields and so on, even kind of asking about that aspect of it. And it was kind of interesting what he said there in terms of, um, I think it relates to what you were saying, right? Insofar as maybe we do have to think about the game sort of having changed. And one question was about even the way that people will dismiss things as fake news and
Yep.
disinformation and things like that. And with what Pablo Torre finds out has been doing, they've got the receipts and everything is very well documented. But it's also at the level of finding a way to sort of hook you, and it's
Yes.
entertaining. It doesn't feel like you're watching some dry, boring newscast or something like
Yeah.
that. So I don't know,
It,
really, really interesting and cool that the Pulitzer committee or whatever, awarded it.
it's very much not 60 Minutes or whatever name your show that does this sort of investigative reports. You're right about the entertainment aspect of it, the sense of culture that he weaves into these stories. I mean, this story forced the NBA to open up what's now a months-long investigation and still has no conclusion yet. So, I mean, this is, I mean, really, really interesting what they were able to uncover here, and just sort of the ramifications of it. They will still fill them in the future. So, I mean, this is, yeah, just great stuff if you haven't checked it out.
Yeah, definitely do recommend. Also recommend King of the Hill, the revival, I think is the right term. We have hit on the podcast before that we're going to do more, and we now we've got a date. The next season is coming out July 20th. I'm really looking forward to this, right? I mean, I enjoyed the revival season a lot, and more than I even thought I would as a fan of King of the Hill. The idea
Yeah.
of getting to know these characters again with that time jump and the older versions of Hank and Peggy and Bobby and everyone else as well. So, other
Yeah,
thoughts there?
I'm looking forward to this. Let's see, it looks like Monday, July 20th, 10 episodes. I'm having trouble now recalling how that previous last summer season ended. Not that it mattered necessarily, but that'll just give me an excuse to go back and I'll watch a few from that season and then go straight into these 10 episodes. But it's just great to have this in terms of the summer is going to be a lot of heavy, dense material. We've talked about some of it in the past few podcasts, but just to be great to have this back in our lives, throw on a couple episodes whenever you need it. And to your point, they have done a great job weaving these characters and this story into sort of a 2026 context. It's just that was I think what we were worried about, and they've done a very good job.
Yeah, as I recall, this isn't a main plot point, I don't think, but my recollection is that the last season ended with something about John Redcorn's Redcorn. So,
Okay.
which is funny, but unfortunately, we probably won't pick up on that because Jonathan Joss
That's right.
was killed. Really messed up story. So I don't know if we'll get any more John Redcorn. I guess. I mean, at this point, it would have to be something that they'd already recorded or what have
Yeah.
you. I kind of doubt that they would have someone else voice that character, although I guess it's theoretically possible. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what happens there. Also looking forward to season 2 of the Celebrity UK Traders or Celebrity Traders UK or however we refer to this. Over in the UK, they would just say the Celebrity Traders, right? So, but yeah, looking at the cast of this, what stands out? I think there are several names that really
Yeah,
caught my
there are
eye.
several standout names here, especially when you look at this cast in comparison to what we've talked about many times, which is the U.S. Celebrity Traders cast, which is full of game players and reality show stars and others that you would find on different competition series in the U.S. No, this has got, I mean, first of all, Bella Ramsey and Mahala, who are stars of two of the most prestige shows out there right now on HBO. Several different accomplished actors and actresses, including Oscar nominees, comedians, um, newscast. I mean, it's interesting to compare the celebrity lineups of these two, and why I think I enjoyed so much the first season of UK Celebrity Traders, and now really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, Saint Richard E. Grant is in there. That one stood out to me.
Yep.
A long storied acting history. A big fan of Richard E. Grant. And he was really good in Dispatches from Elsewhere, which I was talking to with someone recently. They just discovered it. Did you ever watch that show? Did you this ever?
I don't
It was like
recall that show.
I recommend it to people. I wrote on it
Yeah.
as it aired, and I feel like it really fell through the cracks. They made one season, but even in narrative terms, it always felt like there wouldn't be more, shouldn't be more. I don't think they build it as a limited series, but it just kind of feels
Yeah.
like that's the end. It stars Jason Segel. He was like one of the big creatives behind the scenes as well. Um, and I don't know, to hazard a guess, I think that maybe it fell through the cracks for people a little bit because it premiered in March of 2020.
Oh,
Just
okay. Well, yeah, then it would have. Okay.
just a guess, but that maybe people were distracted by other things or more in the mood to watch Tiger King than a
Tiger King.
kind of weird, quirky show you have to think about a bit. So, but yeah, and also I think Michael Sheen going back to Celebrity Traders. I'm looking forward to this a lot, and I agree with you. It seems like with the U.S. version, the normal version has quote unquote celebrities on it, but they're all reality stars
Yeah.
for the most part. Maybe an athlete or two, or doors. You got Michael Rappaport, I guess. He's an actor. Um, I'm looking also forward to the normie version that's going to be
Yeah.
on NBC this summer. But in many ways, I just continue to feel like the UK does it better, where the normal version is regular folks, and then you're doing the celebrity version, and they are, in my mind, actual celebrities more than the Real Housewives of insert city. But
Yeah, exactly.
maybe that's just me.
Exactly.
Maybe that's just me. One last thing I wanted to hit on because we mentioned it on the podcast before. I was sort of sad to see this. Looking through the news this week, the pilot for "Do You Want Kids," coming from Rachel Bloom, ABC has decided to pass on it. So we're not going to get this show. Probably will never even be able to see the pilot, and I'm disappointed in that. I don't know. Remember talking about this one before?
I recall this, and now that we're revisiting it, yeah, having some mixed emotion about this. I don't know if I told you this. I picked back up and have caught up with Rooster on HBO.
Okay.
The Steve Carell, part of a liberal arts university show, which is found to be, we'll have to talk about it after it ends next week, but found to be quite charming as it's gone along. But Rory Scovel plays a real bumbling, sort of inept campus police officer in that show, and he's really, really good. And looking forward to some other things that he was going to be in, and now he was going to be, I think, part of this pilot. And yeah, as you said, no more.
Yeah, and I thought it was an interesting premise. It was supposed to be a kind of sliding doors. One timeline they have kids, the other timeline they don't.
Yeah,
And reading between the lines here, it kind of seems to me like ABC was saying, maybe too weird.
yeah,
Maybe this is weirder than we. And I can see that too. Thinking about Rachel Bloom, I mean, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which I love and recommend to everyone. Even if you don't like musicals, unless you like absolutely hate musicals, get over yourself. I mean, there's a lot of musical numbers, but it's hilarious. Um, so I could well see how ABC just feels like this isn't a fit. And of course, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was on the CW, which is pretty much no longer a going concern. I tried to look into this and they made some weird kind of pivot to news or something, but no
yeah,
one,
yeah.
I think it technically still exists, but not in the way that comes to mind when you mention the CW. Um, Maybe that's unfortunate, you know. We need some we need some lesser level networks that will take a chance on something like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, give me back my UPN and WB and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, anyway, unfortunate that that's not gonna happen. I mean, and given that it was a pilot made for ABC, it seems to me like there's not a much chance that it'll go somewhere else with something like this. I mean, I suppose it's
Yeah,
theoretically possible, but someone that would, I think someone would have to be into it enough to like buy it from ABC. So it kind of
right,
feels a little
right.
unlikely.
I mean, you start moving into the streamers, you got to have some edge to you. You got to have some kind of angle, or they've clearly probably developed this as to be part of the 21 and a half minute time slot on ABC. So yeah, there'd be some things that would have to happen for it to get picked up elsewhere.
Yeah. And I don't know. To be clear, I don't know. I'm just presuming that at this point, ABC owns the rights to it, as opposed to
Yeah,
Rachel Bloom or whatever.
yeah.
So, unfortunate. I hope Rachel Bloom does, show up on my TV screen again sometime in the relatively near future, but we'll see. Okay, you ready to talk about Widow's Bay?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, we're up to episode 3 this week, the inaugural swim, which I'm sure we'll talk about, amongst other things. Spoilers on the table for the first 3 episodes of Widow's Bay on Apple's TV. We'll put a little bit of music in here and be back with you in just about 10 seconds.
Okay, we're back to talk about Widow's Bay on Apple TV, episode 3, the inaugural swim. This episode written by Neil Casey and directed once again by Hiro Murai. Mayor Tom Loftus is feeling good as more and more tourists arrive in Widow's Bay after the review in the New York Times. He even meets a tourist named Marissa who says she's in town as part of a bachelorette party. Tom is also interested in his staff promoting the upcoming cocktails at sunset and the inaugural swim, the tradition where the mayor swims in the ocean to officially kick off summer. The night before all the festivities begin, however, Tom spots an old lady who runs at his car and scratches his arm. Dr. Morgan warns Tom to not go in the inaugural swim with the injury, but he pushes forward anyway, despite what his staff all say. Rosemary tells him about the sea hag and the lure that follows her, that she will start tracking you if she scratches some of your skin off. During the swim, Tom sees the old lady again. She scratches him while he's under the water. Wanting to know what's going on, Tom finally goes to Wick for help, and Wick tells him to hide for 72 hours because all the sea hag wants is to find Tom and to kill him. After Tom meets with Marissa that night, the old lady attacks him at his house, but just when she's about to smother and kill him, Wick pops in and shoots her and kills her. At the same time, the church bells ring, the police radio starts going wild, saying that there is some sort of major problem at the cocktails and sunset party. So a couple things here. Left on a bit of a cliffhanger, but we did talk in the first 2 episodes, and we're curious what kind of show this will be and how it would be structured week to week. Episode 2 was the haunted inn, as it were. Episode
Yeah.
3 is the Sea Hag. So is this going to be sort of a horror mystery of the week and sort of or the island, curse that we have to deal with at this point in time, then try to survive every week? You think that's sort of where we're headed, or is that we're getting out ahead of ourselves?
I did have basically the same thought, and I was struggling a little bit about how I wanted to put it, which I think you were too just now, right? I think I landed on horror premise of the week or horror
Yeah,
trope of the week or something like
right.
that. Um, because I do get the feeling that that's what we're going to get here in terms of the structure of the show. Although there is also a developing plot underneath that that we'll talk about
Yes.
for sure here in a moment. Um, and but I was relating the thought too. And I guess I'll ask you here. Of the three episodes so far, how would you rank this third one?
Hmm.
Like, which was your favorite and which was your least favorite? Is more or less what I'm asking.
I Interesting. I think I would go 1, 2, 3 as my favorite
Okay,
so far.
I was going 2, 1, 3. But
Yeah.
anyway, I
The,
mean,
fir-
so
the
anyway,
first the
my
first two are on top in whatever order you want to put them.
yeah, my starting point was just this feeling in watching this week's episode that I didn't enjoy it quite as much as last week. It was still good, but I was putting those two things together as I was thinking about it. I guess where okay, well, if it meaningfully is going to be along these lines of
Yeah.
a monster of the week or horror premise of the week or what have you, then of course some are going to land better than others. Maybe in part because it lands better for me when we're talking about haunted inn with quirky board games than when we're talking about Sea Hag who scratches you, right? I mean, it just maybe that's a big part of it. But I did enjoy this episode, and you mentioned, I don't know. I mean, I'm tempted to start at the end. You mentioned how it's sort of a cliffhanger. How much of a sense did you have of what was going on there? Because it's also like the priest or Reverend Bryce is also is he involved in whatever's happening? Like he calls Tom and he's
Yeah,
heard the church
this
bells
this thing
now.
with the Reverend and the church bells and the I can hear them, they're going off, something's going wrong. They sort of tease that in a little bit in each of the first 3 episodes. We don't exactly know the context of what's going on here, other than the Reverend seems to be discovering something or learning something about what happens when these bells go off. But also, it seems that maybe this is sort of a red herring of sorts, but it seems like because they went off, something disastrous happened at this cocktails at sunset, or they just happened to be coincidentally tied at the same time. We're not real sure yet, but the way that they laid it out makes it seems like, well, these bells went off, something happened, and there's a real problem at this party.
Yeah, I mean, I almost wondered if Reverend Bryce did something extreme, like did he set the church on fire or something? I don't know. I
Yeah.
presume, and this is where we were just talking about it being a kind of, you know, island curse of the week sort of thing. But now it seems like that is going to kick off into a plot line that will carry forward, at least to next week, but probably further because they've been hinting at it already.
Yeah.
So we don't know what he was doing in the woods either, really.
Mm-mm. He just seems to be
Um,
wondering after learning these things and runs across Tom's son and the teenagers, telling them that there's
but
evil here. But yeah, just no real
first he's
reason for
like,
that yet.
or he's going to some kind of well or something.
Or he discovers a
Um,
well. Yeah.
Well, what I'm putting together is I think that if you recall in the previous episode, I think it was in episode 2. Um, again, having watched those back to back the same evening, I might be mixing things up possibly. But with the church, when after Tom tells him about hearing the church bells, he opens up that book, you recall, or letter or whatever. There's that note.
Yep.
It's like, I hope you never have to deal with it, but if you do, whatever it said exactly. But then the next line was starting to tell him what to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think we were given enough on screen to really know what it said, or I mean, certainly we
Right.
weren't given enough to understand why. But I was putting those things together, like he's doing whatever the book told him to do. So that's why I thought he was going to that well more intentionally on my reading.
Mm.
Maybe
Okay.
that like it was saying, "Hey, go check out the well" or something, like. what's the water in the well like? And then he finds out that it's turned to blood or something. I don't know. We'll find out more later, but I'm just kind of speculating a bit.
Yeah,
We
that
also,
one
I
will be,
realized,
there's a couple of things that's probably I was thinking about the things that have not been, or there's a lot that's not been resolved, but that's sort of the biggest question mark mystery. We get a sense that there's an island that's cursed, an earthquake happens, and then these evil things start coming, and these curses start appearing. But yeah, what that is and what the Reverend's role in that is, that seems to be something that's intentionally left unanswered at this point. Anyway, didn't mean to cut you off, but just thought thinking that.
no, no, no. That's good. That's good. And we're continuing in the same vein. I was just going to say, I also realized after we were done recording, um, that we didn't mention something last week that we probably should have, although I don't know what to do with it, which is, I think it's at the very end of episode 1, where you have this sort of panning shot to this underground room, and there's a chair, and I don't even know how to describe the chair succinctly, almost like an electric chair, or like you'd bind someone to the chair, or I don't know. And then there's a hatch, right? And we haven't returned to that either. So I don't know if that ties in to the stuff with the church. I'm not positive. When I watched uh, when I watched episode 1, I felt like I was being told that that room was underneath the restaurant,
Yeah,
but maybe it's underneath the church, or I don't know. But that's another dangling thread that I think
yeah,
is going to tie in at some point, obviously, because they kind of make a point of showing that to us at the end of that episode.
yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. This will eventually all tie back in together.
All right, so no. Um, Marissa, we got a love interest. Thoughts there? I mean, she is really. I mean, there's a humor to it, but I guess when it comes down to it, she is just being really forward in a
Yeah,
way that Tom would totally be game for if he wasn't at the same time freaked out about this sea hag story.
yeah. I mean, a couple of thoughts there. Number one, yeah, she's just a single woman on a bachelorette party, probably a place we'll never return to again, and no problem to go, find my companion for the time that I'm here. So sure, yeah, go right ahead. Also, my other thought was when she was knocking on his door, when he's at home sort of trying to barricade himself in, I was convinced that she was the old lady, that she was the sea hag, and I was shocked that she got in the cab. I was like, oh man, that sucks.
The show tricked you into the paranoia that Tom was
Yeah.
experiencing himself. I mean, that's great. That's actually like brilliant TV making, right? That I have to admit, I was myself a little bit unsure, but then of course they break the tension
Yeah.
by showing her outside, going back to the taxi, and being really embarrassed to her friend
Yeah.
who's in the cab. The only thing that felt a little inconsistent to me about that was when they're at the restaurant, he says he needs to go to cocktails at sunset, and he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
I guess because the sea hag lore is accurate and he's becoming too groggy and tired, so he just goes home. I guess that's the way to read that, but it did feel a little wonky to me in terms of how he's talking to Marissa, right? Because he says, I have to go to the cocktail party. Do you want to come? And
Yeah.
then she says, well, maybe we could just go to your house instead. And he says it's a bad night, but he doesn't go to the cocktail party. He goes home, and then she shows
Yeah.
up at his house. So it did feel a little bit, I don't know,
That
wonky.
that confused me a little bit. Just for the sense of, yeah, think about the order of what you said of how that transpired. He would not have, if he thought that what Wick was saying was correct, he would not have wanted to go to the cocktail party. And so she starts becoming forward with him, and I don't know, maybe I just thought there was something there about, I mean, a reality of don't want to get attached. Know that you're going to leave. I mean, just a general sense of I just can't. I can't do this. I can't. there was a part from the I might be paralyzed here in a few hours, right? It just, don't want to
Mm,
subject myself to that as opposed to the, well, I can't do it because I might have this curse on me that's about to come.
maybe. Okay, so maybe he's already thinking about the curse. I mean, look, it's not that I don't think his actions don't make sense.
Yeah.
It's just it kind of ended up feeling to me like it would have made more sense if in the scene when they're at the diner, he'd said something like, "Oh man, I'm just really worn out." But he didn't say anything like that. So it was
Yeah.
already a little bit just odd.
Yeah.
And because he does just go home, I don't know, man. Maybe we just got to fill in the gap or something and not worry about this because clearly, when it comes down to it, Marissa knows that he just went home and decides to show up. Again, it would make more sense if he was just saying that he was,
Yeah.
too tired because of the
Right.
swim or whatever, as opposed to, oh no, I've got to go to the cocktail party, which he doesn't go to, and which I'm guessing is because he's too run down because he's been scratched. But I don't know. I mean, maybe belaboring this too much, I guess.
Yeah, it was a weird interaction, and that he seemed like, he was purposefully saying he's going out with colleagues so he could meet up with Marissa. She's not there. He wants to find her later. He can't. Then he ends up at the same place where she is, and she's more forward probably than he was expecting, and all of a sudden it's a no. But maybe it is just a, if there's even a small percent chance that Wick is right, I can't do this.
Yeah, or I mean, the other thing that we should perhaps consider as a possibility is his dead wife does come up. He says that she died in childbirth.
Yeah,
And we don't know if he's had any romantic relationship since then.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
you might guess his kid's like, almost 18 years old or whatever, but maybe not, you know what I mean? So there could be in relation to that kind of situation of having lost the woman you love and thus not pursuing other love, other romance or whatever. That could be a factor potentially. It could be feeding into
Yeah.
and saying no when he has the opportunity, but I don't know.
I think
Regardless,
I was listening to another, I think it was on another podcast or something I read. Anyway, they were talking about the idea that, um, what is it, he or his son that were born on the, his son was born on the island,
yeah,
right?
his son was born on the island and
No
Tom
matter how much
wasn't.
he may want to, he can't, yeah, right. Tom wasn't, son was, as much as he may want to, he can't leave the island. So why get attached to things that are off the island, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't just go and leave my son there. I'm too worried about what actually is happening there. I can't bring him with me. And so what's the point? I'm just going to try to bring everybody here and make this a destination, but, in the way that he could have not take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's the thing though. Like with regard to Marissa though, it's not like um, you know, after one night it's like, hey, let's get married and move back to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mainland with me. No, it's gonna be a one night stand. Why wouldn't you want to go for I mean, so
Yeah.
we've hit on the reasons though. And I mean, I think the primary one is because the sea hag is real, all this stuff is real, and because he's been scratched, one, he's got the fear niggling in his mind about
Yeah.
the sea hag attacking him, but two, he actually is starting to feel too groggy and tired as he's been told he will, right?
Yes.
That you're
Yes.
going to get so run down you won't hardly even be able to move. And we see that
Right.
happening to him. So I do think I mean all of that makes sense at that level. Just the way that the dialogue between them goes feels a little weird. And then he skips the um, cocktail party,
Hmm.
which he'd been making a big deal about.
Yep.
So of course his coworkers are mad at him and so on. And we don't know exactly what went down there. We'll pick up with that next week, I
Yeah.
guess. But
Are you enjoying his coworkers as much as I am? I find that in terms of the humor of the show, I think just one of the best parts. This collection of people, Katie Dippold, who wrote on Parks and Rec and these other comedies, I think it just done a good job of assembling another group of people. I think that are just just hilarious to interact with Tom.
Yeah, they're great, and I hope that Jeff Hiller's character gets to do more. So I'm a fan of
Yeah.
Emmy Award winner Jeff Hiller, from somebody somewhere out there. But yeah, like he's been good so far, but he hasn't. I feel like he hasn't gotten a lot to work with
Yeah.
yet. Where
Yeah.
maybe some of the other characters in the office have gotten a little bit more to work with there. Um, let's jump to the other kind of main thing, at least in my mind. As I was saying a moment ago, the the supernatural curse stuff in the context of the show is real. Like at this point, I think it's totally established, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
already talking about that last week. But a central tension of the show relates to Tom refusing to believe it or,
Hmm.
rationalizing it away. Given what happens here with the sea hag and Wick showing up and like shoot her with a harpoon or something, it looks like a homemade harpoon. Um, But then it seems like you said in your summary that it kills her, which I think is right. I guess we don't
Yeah.
know for sure
Maybe.
because it's supernatural. She kind of disappears though. It's sort of like
Yeah.
there's spattered blood or something, but there's no sea hag corpse. So I don't know. What do you think here? Do you think Tom is going to try to, sort of scientifically rationalize this one away as well, or are we on the cusp of him actually buying into all this stuff?
Yeah, it is interesting when you think about it in the context of there's no body left to, use as evidence. It basically turned into like muck and dirt. That is what it was when I got shot. And so maybe these are things that you survive them, you destroy them, you get past them during this round of the curse, and they can come back in the next time or whatever. Again, I'm thinking about this in terms of what we talked about last week, these Stephen King influences, and just coming
Yeah,
off of Welcome to Derry, where every 27 years this thing comes back, and you can expect certain things, and it's going to grab the children, and it's going to cause this devastation, and you could do your best, but 27 years later, it's going to come again. And so sort of those types of influences. So I think the sea hag is gone for this round of the curse, but the next round, I think, we just don't know at this point. But to the point about Tom, I think he becomes a believer sooner rather than later and tries to, he starts joining forces with Wicks. Like we gotta stop this, right? If I wanted this island to be what it can be, we gotta stop this.
I think so. I think maybe. I'm curious. I'm curious because
Yeah.
I think I don't even know should it go that way or not because again I do feel like a central aspect of the humor so far has
Yeah.
related to Tom's refusal to believe this stuff that
Yeah.
we're increasingly being told is actually real. You know what I mean? So if he does shift gears and get on board, then that would alter the chemistry or the dynamics of the show in a certain way. On the other hand, for him to rationalize it, what would he say? He'd been thinking it was some random homeless woman that he contacts the sheriff about.
Yeah.
He gets sucked into the belief that it is the sea hag, and he's paranoid about it to where he makes Marissa go away and
Yeah.
so on. But then it seems like he should believe that the sea hag was real. I'm just curious: is when we get to next episode, is he going to say, "Oh, well, because I got a scratch, it got infected when I went on a swim and I hallucinated," or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I
I
went
think
underwater and I hit my leg on the rock in the ocean. It wasn't an actual another scratch. Yeah. I mean, again, with a lack of evidence, you could certainly see Tom go that direction.
yeah. So at the same time, then though, you do have the stuff with the Reverend and the bell and whatever's going down. So yeah, I mean, mostly curious about that. Any further thoughts on the inaugural swim? I mean, again, it's just another kind of funny thing, like he almost says that the mayor has to go do the inaugural swim to prove that you're not going to die in the ocean or something. But like kind of holds back on that a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts about that
Yeah, no,
segment?
this is just a great, I think things like this actually exist in these small towns and these little beach environments and culture like that. I think these things do exist. But yeah, I keep being mesmerized by maybe it's the range, but with Matthew Reese could do these things, right? Yeah, he can do the serious, he can do the funny, and then just do the absurd as well. And these things that just wide range is just very, very impressive.
Yeah, agreed. And funny. I mean, this show is legitimately funny. I saw someone talking about it. It seems like it's catching some steam out there in the world, which I'm happy to see.
Yes,
I
yes.
saw multiple people talking about it on Blue Sky and things like that. And one comment I think was from Shanti Collins, who writes on TV and is writing on the show somewhere. I'm not sure where, off the top of my head, but saying something like this show's actually a comedy. It's not just kind of warm and fuzzy show that's comedy shaped. I sort of
Right.
like that comment.
That's
Like this
exactly
thing that
right.
no, you're actually laughing legitimately watching the show, not just kind of chuckling and feeling good or whatever. So
And much of
definitely
that, I
enjoying it.
think, I think due to the cast that they put together. I'm just trying to do a quick search, see if I see a casting director here. I don't see anything off the sort of the top of the list here, but just impressive. I mean, you see Matthew Reese and Stephen Root, and maybe it's just from the previous thing they've been in. You think it's going to have a certain sensibility, and then you add in these other, the Jeff Hillers and the others, the characters that are there. It's just a tremendous
Mm.
ensemble.
Yeah, Toby Huss. I mean, and other names I'd have to refresh my memory on, but it's definitely a great cast and been enjoying it a lot. All right. Anything else you want to hit on with this episode before we wrap up?
No, no, this is great. Strong episode. We got, no, we still have seven more to go, man. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm really glad we decided to do the show because I'm enjoying it. And it's distinctive in a way too. Like I'm imagining anyone who's listening's already watched the show, but if somehow you haven't, you just like listening to people talk about shows you haven't seen, I do really recommend this one because it's got that. It's just everything about it just feels really distinctive to me in a way that stands out. The sort of excuse me, sort of absurdity of it, the way it really is, horror comedy, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, so thanks everyone for listening. If you're on the main podcast, we're going to continue on to talk about the surprise drop episode of The Bear. If you're on the YouTube channel, please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. And as for that Bear episode, we'll also be putting up a YouTube on that, so you can keep an eye out for that. But again, if you're on the main podcast feed here, we'll put a little bit of music in again, and we'll just power forward and continue on talking about the very special episode of The Bear that I don't even know what season it's supposed to be in. It's on Hulu on its own called Gary, almost like it's a short film, but it says S1E1. I don't know. Anyway, we're talking about The Bear, Gary, on the other side of this musical interlude. And of course, spoilers will be on the table for everything in The Bear up to this point.
Yeah. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, let's talk about the special episode of The Bear that dropped on May 5th, titled Gary. This episode is written by John Bernthal and Emma Moss Bachrach and directed by Christopher Storer. In this prequel episode, it takes place before season one. Richie and Mikey are asked by Jimmy to take a sealed box to Gary, Indiana in exchange for a payment. The two go on a one-day road trip together, and more of their complicated relationship is revealed. The two also seemingly have a falling out at the end of this episode. It does also provide context for the man Mikey was before his suicide and for Richie's character and where he is mentally when we meet him in season one. You may be aware, John Bernthal and Emma Moss Bachrach are on Broadway together right now doing Dog Day Afternoon. They are currently doing
Yeah.
this as we speak. Do you think one day they just said, "Hey, let's write an episode of The Bear, see if they'll make it for us"?
I guess I don't know. Be curious, maybe about a little bit more backstory there. I would definitely be curious to see them do Dog Day Afternoon. Do you know who they're playing? Do you happen to know? I haven't looked into that. I'm
I
familiar
have
with the
not.
film.
I have not
Um,
looked. No, I'm not familiar.
yeah. If we don't know, that's a side note anyway. I can look it up later. I'm just curious, like who's who? Like who's playing the Al Pacino character? That's got to be Bernthal, right? I don't, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Because I think either could do it. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the episode. I wasn't sure in the first half of it whether I was enjoying the episode. It was maybe a bit slow.
Mm.
Um, I guess it's sort of to the point, though. Thinking about it as a whole, I think it works. It really does work along the lines of a short film, if an hour long film is short.
Yeah.
Um, Thinking about it as an episode of The Bear is almost tougher because it's limited in scope. I don't know. How did the episode land for you, right?
Yeah, I thought the same thing about the first half. I thought, oh man, this is just going to be an hour of them just busting each other's balls in the car for, on the way to this trip and back. And for the most part, whether in the car or on the basketball court or other, at the restaurant while they're waiting, it seemingly was. And then it sort of turns into this interesting exploration and really sort of dueling scenes of Mikey and Richie and who they are and who they have been, that turned into something much more interesting, I'd say, in the last 40% of the episode.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like maybe you almost did need the build up to that, which in fairness, as I was watching it, even I felt like, okay, well, something's going to happen at some point. But it did go on for quite a while where they were just kind of putzing around Gary, Indiana. And
Yeah.
I haven't read anything on this yet, but I had the distinct feeling that when they went to the Coney hot dog shop, I
Yeah.
had the distinct feeling that the woman there really works there. But I haven't looked into it. But do you know what I mean? Did it kind of feel like that? She didn't feel like an
Yeah,
act.
there was some authenticity there. I did see that what her name was. I think her name in the episode is Alicia, and her name is Alicia in real life. So yeah, maybe there's some real sense of, oh, we're gonna try to find the Gary, Indiana equivalent of the beef or something like it, and we're just gonna go plop down there for 20 minutes and do a scene.
Yeah, not a lot of time to do research when they surprise drop an episode on us. But
Yeah.
um, even as all that was going on, it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it in a certain way, but it was going on and on and on. And then they played pickup basketball, and I guess maybe to the episode's credit, I wasn't finding myself able to guess where it was going. Right? I
Yeah.
mean, at some level, thinking, well, something's got to happen at some point. But even once we got into the bar and things kind of picked up a little bit and it was maybe more entertaining, more dynamic in terms of the interaction. We're meeting new characters. We've got this character, Sherry. I believe her name is Sherry, unless she was lying about that
Yes.
part.
Yeah.
But
Fact or fiction.
they play that fact or fiction game and so on. And then this bond starts to form between Mikey and Sherry, and that's really interesting. Well, at the same time, you have the dynamic with Richie and basically everyone in there, which I think, yeah, does. Yeah, I don't know. Do you feel like it deepens Richie's character? Because that's what I was about to say. But in some ways, I felt like we already knew that this guy was in there. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to go back and, the other thing about this, it doesn't give you much time to revisit, things that you've seen before. I don't recall how much of, I mean, obviously there's a lot of Richie and Mikey interaction in any of the flashback episodes that we've had in The Bear, but did their relationship look like this? Or was it just typically when you see Mikey, he's kind of the over the top flamboyant arguing with somebody, but I don't remember how much of that was with Richie. This seems to be that they clearly have a long-term relationship with one another, but also it's sort of built on um, this sense of Mikey is the alpha and Richie just sort of is subservient to him and just sort of takes it while Mikey dishes it out. And
Yeah,
it just leads more into the personality of who Richie is, trying to find his place as we get to him, and especially in seasons 2 and 3.
yeah. I do find myself wondering how much the relationship maybe soured after this,
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't know that I can piece absolutely everything we've seen together, but clearly what happens in Fishes occurred before this in
Yes.
historical terms, right? Because in Fishes, Tiff is pregnant, but she's not this pregnant. And then in the season 3 episode Legacy, I believe one thing that's mentioned there is that Tiff did go into labor the next day.
Yes, and there is yes, that is referenced in the episode Legacy, and there's a line there about, I actually have it here. The day before, I was with your brother on this trip, and I know she was like a little bit pissed at me, so I made sure I was around all day. So referencing this fact that he was gone, she goes in labor the next day. He was there, thank God, because certainly she was pissed off that he didn't get home that night until late.
Yeah, so like, was that line the inspiration for this entire episode somehow? When they
Maybe.
started thinking,
Yeah.
like, what do you think that trip was? Why do you think Tiffany would be pissed off at him? I mean, I haven't watched the episode. It's easy enough to see why she'd be pissed at him. He was supposed to be home by 5:15. He promised, and well, that's something I think you could effectively apologize for or excuse based on, oh, well, we were doing this errand. It was delayed.
Yeah.
We had to wait, bus around Gary. There was nothing we could do about it. And then there was this train or whatever. Okay. But you're also coming home drunk, coming down off cocaine with like clown paint on your face. I
Right.
mean, it's like I just imagining her reaction when he gets home at 6 p.m. or whatever. Wouldn't be very positive. And I don't know. We know that they're divorced by the time we get to the main series, so how much did that at the
You
beginning of Gary, they seem like they're doing good. And so how much does that feed into their long term
you
troubles,
do
I
have
guess
to
is another
you
question.
do have to wonder, did something like this start or build up to, yeah, the fact that they aren't together anymore? Maybe it's a sense of, you don't, I can imagine her say, you don't need to be around that Mikey guy anymore, any more than you have to. You work with him, and then that's it. He's, Mikey's part of my life. And, you could sort of see where the conversation would go after
Mm,
a day like this, especially, when she's in the midst of about to give birth to a child. They're trying to know how to figure this together. He's now heard what he's heard from Mikey at the end of this episode. So yeah, there's some real, yeah, Richie is such an interesting character. We've talked about this before, just because of the ways he is pulled and the things that he has been, the places he has had to go for certain people. So I did think that this added some more to him, at least in terms of who he is when we first meet him. Now knowing these
yeah,
things,
yeah. And right, and I mean to just throw it in there too, in terms of how Tiff would react when they're on the phone, she asks him not to smoke cigarettes. So you can kind of imagine that prior to this already,
yeah,
perhaps because she's pregnant, they're going to be parents and so on. There have been discussions and promises made about kind of like, get your act together and no more wild crazy nights or whatever.
yeah,
We're quitting smoking together and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know if she ever smoked actually,
yeah,
but all that kind of stuff, such that with what's occurred here in Gary, he's kind of he's kind of broken a promise. I think that's probably
yeah,
part of it. And so I'm not at all suggesting that this wrecked their marriage right away, but it
right,
probably
right.
is an emergence of something symptomatic of what did make things not work out between them. Because
It
when we
is,
see
it
them
is,
years later, they still get along.
it is interesting now that I think back on it, because yeah, those two are together in a scene, less than a minute, but you really get the sense that things are fine and they're excited and they are very much, in love at that point. And so between then and obviously when season one, whatever the time frame is and that difference, yeah, it's just completely fallen apart. And this may have been a little bit of the first brick laid of that.
Yeah. Let's shift gears towards Mikey a bit, but in terms of the timeline, I think it is a few years before the beginning of season one. So
Yes.
I was looking at something, it might have even been the Wikipedia page. So if you want to find dates, people have plotted them out on the internet. You can find it. But I mentioned Fishes. We know that this is after Fishes, right? And I think
Yes.
we've been given the information before as far as um, Fishes was in like 2018, I think. So now we're in
Yeah.
2019, and then the main series picks up in 2023 or something like that. Are you looking at it right now?
Yeah, so this says Fishes took place on December 24, 2018, which sets the events of Gary probably sometime in the middle of or first half of 2019. In the pilot, the prayer card for Mikey says that he died by suicide in February of 2022. And the show, yeah, we see in the summer of 2023, assuming that's real time. So that's sort of the general timeline we're dealing with.
Yeah, or maybe the first season of the show is in 2022. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, something like that. So it's been a few years. Um, Thinking about what happens with Mikey in this episode, this is definitely something that I found very interesting and kind of made this worth existing, if that's a question at all. Like, why do this episode?
Yeah.
One, John Berthol's great every time we see Mikey in the flashbacks, so it's just
Yeah.
nice to see more of him. But his character is also really interesting, and if you think about it, his character meaningfully haunts the whole series, right? I mean, this is why um, Carney has come back
Yep.
to take over the beef.
Yep.
The fact that Carney wasn't able to go to the funeral can bring himself to, and then of course the relationship between Mikey and Richie and so on. So the central thing I think that I want to talk about at least is in what we see between him and Sherry in
Hmm.
this episode, and then we're going to need to circle back to Mikey and Richie. But
Yeah.
thoughts about his interactions with Sherry here?
Yeah, we don't often see Mikey being, I don't know, we ever see him being this vulnerable. Maybe with oh gosh, no, I've completely forgotten her name during the napkins episode, when they're before I can't believe I've forgotten her name. Before she
Yeah.
starts working before she starts working at the beef, she and Mikey bond over this sense of like, how hard it is out there. And, they have this real poignant conversation. But we don't often see in the conversations or in the flashbacks we get with, like, we don't often see him this vulnerable, but he is just, I mean, literally on the bathroom floor with her, opening up about his mom and his, childhood and who he was and who he wanted to be. It's just like, just this, I think, very rich history that we've not seen from Mikey before.
Yeah, and Tina is the character's name.
Tina.
It's funny because as you were saying, I was about to say Lisa, but that's at least close to the actor's name. But anyway, yeah, I mean, there was some vulnerability there, but maybe not to this extent. I mean, when you get to where Mikey and Sherry are sitting in the bathroom and he's talking about how this feeling or conclusion that nothing really matters can
Mhm.
feel so freeing, but then every once in a while, it hits him like a ton of bricks. And I mean, basically, he's describing his manic depression.
Yeah,
I mean,
basically.
in that okay, well, nothing matters, just have fun, whatever. We can just do whatever we want to, and then it flipping around to nothing matters. There's no point in doing anything at all.
Yeah.
Um, and one thing I wanted to mention and talk through a bit is in the conversation, the story tells about Donna,
Hmm.
where, as he puts it, when his mother, managed to hit the right kind of balance of drugs and chemicals in her body or whatever, she's the right kind of move.
Yeah.
Coming into, but kind of putting that to the side even, that coming into his room and kind of caressing him and telling him how his day is going to go and how comforting he found that to be,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I can connect to, I think. But then I think the point more is in the story of one day he asks Donna to tell him how his day is going to go and what's going to happen. And she says, like, who cares? It's just a day or
Mm.
whatever, right? And so this is what Mikey says to Sherry. It's very quiet, by the way. Turn your subtitles on. Um, but that he struggles to understand how that could be the same person.
Yeah.
And what I think is a connection I want to draw ultimately is I think we see the same thing with Mikey in this episode. Follow me,
Okay, how
or does that
so?
land for you?
Because and what he does to Richie at the end?
Yeah, the duality of Mikey.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like,
Yeah, I mean they sort of maybe in the first half of that episode they've established, we see more so than any extended period of time that we have in the rest of the series, their type of relationship. And it's,
yeah,
it's two guys, two rough guys, but they're just, doing their guy things together. But then yeah, it becomes just admit it, Richie, you fail at everything, you're gonna fail at this too, your kid's gonna hate you. Um, it's sort of it's hard to think with Mikey that's sort of out of nowhere, but you're like, well, where is this coming from? Um, Coming from
it's I mean
the remembrance of this past or what? But it just seems like out of nowhere.
it's even within the very same monologue. It's within the toast, right? Because like he starts
Yes.
out and he's toasting Richie and how happy he is, and he's going to be a father, and everything's going so well for him. Look how happy he is, and we verge into armchair psychoanalysis or something, but this is how it makes sense to me at some level of one, I think like Mikey's recognizing Richard really is happy, but kind of shifting to you don't get to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a piece of shit, like me. You're gonna mess it up. We all, it's not just you. You always mess it up. I always mess it up, right? And but he becomes so vicious in it, and I get the impression that that also, we were talking just a little bit ago about Richie's marriage with Tiff and what goes wrong there, or whatever,
Yeah.
and where Richie's character is at the beginning of the series. Why would he be thinking? I get the feeling that this almost infected Richie's thinking as well, and his thinking about himself, and his ability to believe that he would be a good father, and so on and so forth. Because at some level, Mikey, it's not that he's right that Richie knows he's going to mess it up.
Hmm.
It's he does. There is something in Richie that is deeply worried that he's going to mess it up, and
And
it's precisely there that Mike is hitting.
I wonder also if until we see him in seasons 2 and 3 move more in the direction of finding a bit of a purpose, which he talks about in season 2, he's always been looking for, that he is not able to, or he is not able to, when Mikey's no longer around, show him that he can be a good father, or B, it's because they're divorced and he's not around and the daughter's not with him all the time. He's been proven right, and now he can't change it because Mikey's gone. So there's no way to to alter any of it. And so yeah, what Mikey said came true. And so well, he must have been right all along. I screwed everything up.
Yeah, something like this. I mean, from everything we've seen, I think Richie's a pretty good father,
Yeah.
actually. But I mean, they are divorced and so on, and it's clearly something he's continued to worry about. And I'm just kind of imagining filling in the gaps here about how his worries about being a good father and being able to do this, and the way that Mikey, um, whose opinion he cares about, has fed into this. How much does that like undermine Richie moving forward to where
Yeah.
he doesn't believe that he'll be able to succeed, and that kind of structure of I don't know, failing because you believe you're going to fail or something like that. And then, of course, retrospectively looking back and saying, well, of course I wasn't going to succeed at doing this because I'm not the person who can succeed at doing this.
Yeah.
All of that makes sense to me in terms of his character.
It made me to also think about, earlier when they're at what's it called? The Coney King. I had to look that there. When they're at the Coney King waiting on the call, they talk about that they have a restaurant and that Mikey's sort of in charge and Mikey cooks from time to time. And they ask Richie, "What do you do?" And Mikey's like, "Yeah, what do you do?" And there's no real answer there. He's like, "I'm the song and dance man, I'm the guy out front, I'm making the sales." It's just there's nothing there that Richie can actually point to say, well, because I do this, I provide value and make sure that this place is functioning at this level or serving at this level. He's just and it makes me wonder how many times is Mikey the thing he does then, how many times has Mikey said those types of things to him, right?
Hmm.
If you're at the restaurant, what are you doing here? Why are you even here? What purpose do you serve here? Just how much has Richie heard that? And you think about then is it Richie or Carmi take Mikey's death the hardest?
Yeah.
Based on this, I bet Richie took it really, really hard.
Yeah, good. And I mean, going back earlier in the episode, there's also this aspect of it where Mikey's doing something somewhat similar, even with regard to the trip that they're on. You know, it's like at the beginning of it, Richie feels like I'm being given an important task by Jimmy and all of
Yes.
that. This is cool.
Yes.
This is great. He's feeling good about it, you know. And how does Mikey respond? He goes, "Well, you're feeling respected. Just being an errand boy, right?
Yeah.
You're being sent to Gary, Indiana. You know, this sucks, really, right?" And it's like, oh, now
So,
we have to
okay.
hang out in Gary. You still feel respected?
I,
So there's that
I
aspect too.
I had that exact same thought, but at the very end, when the guy opens the box, and it's like whatever he calls it, pump propellers, and Richie's almost looking at it like, oh, I thought this was going to be an important job, or I thought this was something that, was going to be more, I don't know, more glamorous or more adventurous or whatever. And it's just a guy getting a box of pump propellers because the FedEx is on strike. And
Yeah.
Richie's like, oh, even when I thought the thing was that I would be able to, do more to be more valuable to Jimmy or to Mikey, it just turned out I'm just a mule because the box couldn't get there.
Hey, yeah. It's not like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction or something like
Yeah.
that. It's not even. It also plays on. I recall particularly more at the beginning of the series when it premiered, feeling like maybe Jimmy was more mobbed up or something like that. And
Yeah.
as you go
Yes.
forward, it's
Yes.
like maybe there's some kind of shady connections, but for the most part, he's just a businessman. I think, right? Like even here, maybe those propellers are like to some degree black market, but it's not like they were um, muling a box of cocaine or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like this is little widgets. Okay. So yeah, and I think that then you also have to speculate about what Richie was like before this.
Right.
But moving forward, if we want to interpret how Richie is at the beginning of season one, I think you do see there how he has a certain lack of confidence, lack of purpose, lack of self-respect in a particular way. And one of the
Yeah.
things that's been enjoyable over the course of the series is sort of seeing him find that through the restaurant, through the restaurant. I mean, right? Um, then we have the last scene, which I guess is cutting to the present. What do you make of this? This is, I mean, I guess we are to imagine that in that moment, Richie is reflecting back on this experience of Gary or whatever, and that would be the connection.
Yeah.
Um,
It struck me as that last few moments is not necessarily, I don't know. It didn't strike me as that is takes place after the events of Goodbye, the last episode that we've seen of the show. Maybe it was sort of the beef Richie, as he's recalling this. It's almost possible to see where this lands in the context of the show, but just that, yeah, he's kind of recalling this memory while he's blind staring at a traffic light, it looks like.
yeah, I think that I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense to me is that they would be cutting to what is the present of the show.
Yeah.
Certainly, there are people out there on the internet asking, did the bear just kill off one of its main characters in a very special, unannounced? I don't think so. I don't think Richie's going to be dead, but it is a weird quirk that they did this episode that doesn't quite fit in without any announcement, and
Yeah.
then. But it's
It'll be
another
interesting.
possibility, maybe, of why they decided to do that, because maybe this was going to be episode one, and then they thought, well, that's kind of a weird season
Yeah.
premiere, but then we want to pick up with Richie being in the hospital or something. But hey, this episode's done. Let's just go ahead and release it. Maybe that's how it went. I don't know.
It would be an odd first episode. I mean, of course, this is the show that had the basically a montage episode as a first episode of a season once a couple years ago.
Yeah,
So who knows
it's like
what
a
they'll
Nine Inch
what
Nails
they'll
music
do.
video. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I guess we're going to get the new season in June. No official date announced yet. We'll try to be on top of that.
Yeah.
I know that you've got to run. We have a couple of things in our notes. I don't know if you want to hit real quick. I put eBug on here. I just want to mention the emergency goalie thing is a real thing. You can look into
Great
it, read
acronym.
what it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Got to
It's
bring
an
that up.
interesting thing. It's an
Yeah.
interesting thing.
And then
Do you
yeah,
want to
just
do?
I wondered, okay, have we had an answer over 4 seasons of where the money in the tomato cans at the end of season 1 came from? And is this it? These sort of runs that they would do on behalf of Jimmy. Do we know where that money came from?
I don't feel like we do, and I mean it's a decent guess. Not as directly as just from this one trip, because as we were just talking about, it was just to sell
Yeah.
a box of I can't even remember what they're called now. The widgets, the plastic widgets of whatever kind. But maybe if he's doing various stuff like this and other side jobs, and
Yeah.
if he's taking all that money and keeping it off the books, I don't know. I feel like maybe there were some other things in season 1, but
Yeah.
it's a weird one to me because it feels like the show has just totally dropped that question. So
Yeah.
I don't
It,
know.
it has. There was like
Yeah,
almost made it seem like he was like skimming things from vendors or not accounting for revenue, just some weird things that maybe we add this into the till there is what happens in this episode. So it's just a combination of things, I guess.
at one point I thought maybe it was like selling drugs or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we've ever gotten a definitive answer. I don't know if it'll ever really matter if the show will explicitly revisit it, but you could take this as a jumping off point to speculate about that. Sure, I suppose him
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
these sort of odd jobs or errands or whatever. Um, all right, good. I think that about covers it. Hopefully you enjoy listening and are with us as we continue to cover the bear. I think we'll probably try to do that with the next season. We'll have to see how the timing works out. We'll figure out a way probably. Um, Thanks always for listening. Hope you enjoy the podcast. Do like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out TVObsessive.com. And we'll be back on the podcast next week, continuing to talk about Widow's Bay, which we're covering on a regular basis. And we'll see you then.
All right. Looking forward to that. We'll see you next time.